Hey, Catholic Divas, welcome back to Cycles and Sanctity. Mama Vicki and I know that December can stir up many emotions, memories, hopes, maybe even pain. But what if, in all of it, God is quietly showing us his crazy, unshakable love? So we want to invite you this month as we explore how love transforms suffering, choices, and even the hardest seasons of womanhood into the places of healing and grace. We wish you a very Merry Christmas as you listen to this month's episodes. God bless you. Hey, this is Mama Jane.
And this is Mama Vicki. Welcome to the Cycles and Sanctity podcast.
I'm a Billings ovulation method instructor and a certified Catholic mindset coach.
And I'm a labor and delivery nurse, an IBCLC, and a La Leche League leader.
We're here to share with you the beauty and the pain of your cycles.
Have you considered honoring your cycle throughout the journey of your womanhood?
Have you ever considered your cycle as a tool toward your holiness?
Well, sisters, it is. We're excited to walk this journey with you.
So go grab your favorite journal and pen and your hot beverage, and let's do this. Hey, Mama Vicki, how are you?
Hey, Mama Jane, I'm doing pretty good. Glad to be here.
So we talked about how to make good choices, and we really kind of focused on two aspects: making sure we have a community that supports us, people that can give us that good counsel, and then also when we do make mistakes, get to confession, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about the fruit, the consequence of our actions, of our choices. That is the action and then the result. But I like to use the word fruit just because it's also very biblical. The Lord said, you could tell the tree by its fruit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then at the Last Supper, he said, remain in my love. I am the vine and you are the branches. You have to remain in me so that you can bear more fruit. We'll prune the branches that are not fruitful so that we can bear more fruit, just like with roses or flowers or even our hair. Right?
Hair,
like I always think about that. How many times do you hear, oh, get your hair cut and it'll grow faster?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
For sure.
But understanding what fruit we desire is really one of those things to help us with those good choices.
Yes. I also really like remembering you do have to prune the branches. So when you look at your life and you're like, oh my gosh, why am I in this situation I don't like? Or sometimes things are out of our control and it's somebody else's journey and we have to just be there. But you can take an inner look at your inner self and say, what am I reading? Again, who am I hanging out with? And Mama Jane and I were talking earlier. Sometimes you don't even know you're not hanging out with the right crowd. And then you come up upon something that reminds you of your virtues and your true self. And then you're like, oh my goodness. And you can open the door to go back. I've had a couple different experiences in my life where I went to the church and kind of ran into the wrong people, but they weren't really the wrong people. They gave me the experience I had. And in the end, it drew me back. I've always known, even in times of turmoil, that God is there. So I had to look around and be like, okay, who am I surrounding myself with? And be perseverant. I think of like when kids are in college and go to the Newman Center. Maybe they went on a day where there wasn't very many people, or there was already something going on, and then you think, oh gosh, there's no outlet for me. I mean, that's not true. It's not like one and done. You've got to, even with ourselves. I mean, if you catch me on a bad day, like I just am in a funk, I didn't pray in the morning, I stepped out of the door on the wrong foot, you're not going to get the best me. And so hopefully people I meet will give me another chance. Usually my sanguine comes out, I can be smiley enough that I don't completely turn them off, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And one of the things I want to focus on is another spiritual exercise that I know for myself, it has really helped me in my own spiritual life, but also in my ability to make the choices that I want to make and to understand the fruit that I want to create in my life or that the Lord is calling me to bear, right? It's a very simple and it's a very profound exercise. It's called the Night Examen. It's by St. Ignatius. And actually, St. Ignatius with the Jesuits, he said to his priest that this is more important than the office, which is the breviary, the liturgy of the hours, which is what a priest is required to pray. But he felt that this was so important because it helps us with our decisions. And it also helps us with our relationship with the Lord. So I just want to take a few minutes in case someone hasn't and never heard this. The Examen, it's basically just kind of five things. It's first, you just meditate, you look back on your day. It's in the evening sometime, and the past 24 hours, you just kind of made a mental note, or I do it with a journal just because I like to have the history of it, like a diary of all the blessings. What did God bless me with? What were the good things that happened in my life? So many of us tend to only look at the bad things, and this can kind of help us shift. It's one of those things. One of my first coaching techniques is learning to be grateful. We mentioned about that gratitude. What are you grateful? So when I start to complain or I start to hear someone complain too much, I ask them, like, well, what are you grateful about in this moment? So what are the
Mm.
blessings? God's always blessing us with everything. Even in a very horrible situation, there are blessings. I mean, we can listen to Jen DeLacrosse's testimony. We've talked about that, this horrific cancer in the brain, and she has to wear this machine, and she's got 7 kids, and you'd think that that's so devastating, but in listening to her, she has so many blessings. So blessings is
Mhm.
the first one. And then asking the Lord, how did we turn away from him? Like, what were the things that I didn't do well? What went well? What didn't go well? Where did I turn away from him?
An
Where did I make
opportunity to be closer next time.
Well, yeah, but first acknowledging, like, oh, I did it this way. And maybe like,
Sure.
what was the bad choice that I made? Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Like you and I were talking, I'm practicing another spiritual exercise, and it's been really hard. And the other night, I just didn't want to pursue it. And I made the choice to just go sit down and watch TV. And I know about this about myself. When I sit in that chair and watch TV, nothing else is going to happen. Like, I'm going to sit there too long. I'm going to watch stupid stuff that I really don't want to watch. I just like veg. It's not a good choice for me. And then, of course, I get mad at myself because I made that choice, right? But that's where you just like, okay, that wasn't a good choice. This isn't a good choice. So you list it in the Examen, and then you just give it to the Lord. You say the act of contrition, Lord, I'm really sorry that I did this. That wasn't really a good choice. And then this is where you really kind of meditate with the Lord, and the third really big part is the resolution. Okay, well, how can I make a better choice tomorrow? What's
Hmm.
the thing that I want to do tomorrow? And it's only one thing. And that's the thing I love about this Examen is that it's only one thing. Just do the one thing. You don't have to correct all of those choices. You don't have to beat yourself up forever. Maybe they were sins. Maybe they were thoughts. Maybe they were bad choices. Is sitting watching TV too long a sin? It could be slothfulness. It was really what it was. It was buffering, is that I didn't want to face the emotions that I was having. And I recognize that. And that's also how you start to get to know yourself, right? It's like, oh, yeah, this is what I do when I want to buffer. And so doing the nightly Examen, and especially when you have it in a little journal, first of all, when you're in that place of, is there a God? I'm drowning, like you mentioned last podcast, where sometimes in your life you're like, I'm in the ocean, and people say, get to the beach. I can't even see the beach, right?
Hmm.
Well, sometimes the writing of the blessings is where, like, oh, I can see the beach. It's
Yep.
not that far. There's the hope.
Hmm.
So, what's coming up for you about that Examen?
I just think it helps you turn your night around. I mean, we mentioned the last podcast, both Mama Jane and I just kind of have a lot of heaviness going on in our families right now. And it's easy to want to buffer. I just want to sit here and I don't even know how to move in any direction. And sometimes that is okay, but not when you're really kind of still staying in that negativity or the belief that God doesn't have it. I mean, maybe that's it. I mean, for me, it's the self will, it's the self reliance. And when I sit down and I'm like feel defeated or like, oh my gosh, all I've done isn't even working. And hold on, it's not me that needs to do that work. My work is to trust in the Lord. And I've done all I know to do. I mean, when your grown children make choices maybe you don't agree with, that's not you making that bad choice. And they're not making bad choices because of you. They're their own person. I mean, they're an adult. They have their own relationship with God. So sometimes I just need to get out of the way and pray and continue to pray for them.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm lay down at night, I'm very good at beating my own self up. And so,
Aren't we
um,
all? I mean, that's,
yes.
I think if that's one thing that that we could help our audience shift a little bit is to give ourselves a little bit more grace and a little bit more compassion.
Yes. And when I lay down at night, or before I lay down at night, or when I'm laying down, sometimes I do my exam laying down, but I do agree with writing it out, because when you write your blessings, when you have to actually think and be like, okay, where am I blessed? And it holds you a little more accountable, and then you can see it, because there are a ton of blessings, and there are people that want what I have, even if I'm over here thinking this is the worst day ever or something. There's people that do have it worse than me. And you know I think I've touched on this in old podcasts. It's kind of like, when you have little kids and you're overwhelmed and somebody says, oh, you're going to miss this, and I'm thinking, all right. Or I think, yeah, I could be washing my clothes in the Nile hoping my children aren't getting eaten by alligators, but that's not my reality. Like, my reality is here. And we just have a lot to be grateful for. Honestly, every time I go to mass, it overwhelms me of the gratitude that here in America we can pray, we can go to mass openly, we can go to any church openly.
Yeah.
And sometimes the blessing is simple as that. I was thinking, the other day, like, man, I really need to get to adoration, and then trying to think about my schedule in the week and when adoration is in my town, and I'm like, I've got churches all over. I mean, I don't need to only go on my parish's schedule. I mean, there's
Yes.
plenty of other places, and I'm kind of got off on a tangent there about blessings, but there is always blessings,
Yes.
always blessings.
Yes, again, that is also the fruit, right? That's the good fruit that maybe it was our decisions, maybe it was our actions, but also sometimes it's just God's goodness. I have no control whether the Lord gives me sunshine or rain. And
Exactly.
sometimes it's really beautiful, especially like, in El Paso where we never get rain. It's just so glorious to receive the rain. And sometimes, again, depending on like when you live in England or Washington State, it's seeing rain all the time. Seeing the sun is really great, but it's those blessings of acknowledging like God has got your back. I think that's the
Hmm.
beauty of those blessings. And it kind of gives you that ability to make those better choices, you know?
Yes.
And then the other thing, like going back to the like, well, how did I mess up? Like, what didn't go well today? Like, where did I screw up? And was it my choice? Where did I choose to turn away? That's a blessing in itself as well, because what happens is, especially when you write it down, you start to notice the patterns of things. Like, for instance, I know about myself, it's funny, before the even word of binge watching, I never even heard that word until Netflix really kind of came out. But that's exactly what I would do. And I would tell people, like, this is my addiction, like, this is my drug, is to watch TV. Now I know, like, I was just simply numbing my emotions, rather than having the courage to face those emotions, to understand the emotions, to understand those thoughts that cause the emotions. And that's one of those things that also I wanted to. So we talked about the Examen, and I really want to give our audience another tool that I love. This has totally changed me. And just doing this simple exercise many times with my clients, they can see the shift so drastically. But it's, again, it's something that we've never taught ourselves, right? Is our thoughts are really everything. It all begins in the thought. St. Paul talks about the sin. It's the thought that leads to the temptation leads to the sin. And so it's, what are we thinking about? But most of us don't take the time to think about or assess what we're thinking about.
Hmm.
So, and one of the exercise we were doing in our workshop is just spending 2 or 3 minutes literally getting, and you've said this before about, like, for you, your perspective is you hate journaling because, and maybe there's some aversion, like, I don't want to see these thoughts. I have
Sure.
thoughts about my thoughts, like I have judgments
Yeah.
about my thoughts, right? And that is something that at the beginning, sometimes we don't want to look at our thoughts because we don't want to look at the ugliness, right? But if you can take the courage just to simply maybe just set the alarm, set the timer for like maybe just 2 minutes, and just write down all the thoughts that you have about a particular issue, particular topic of something.
Honestly, that worked wonders the other day in the workshop when you said, okay, for 5 minutes, write about this. And for some reason, my brain could see that not as it's time to journal, even though that's exactly what I was doing. And I was able to break it down like that, audience. So if you are like me and journaling is tough for you, that was I just didn't even realize. And I didn't think, I was just like, I mean, some of you may text it or be typing it on a computer. I'm old school, so I really like to write. And it really was able to just flow out. And honestly, when the 5 minutes was up, I was like, oh my gosh, that went fast.
Yeah. And I want to go back to what you said about typing versus writing. I always recommend to my clients and to anyone who listens, actually taking a pen to paper, because there is this neurological, biological connection from our thoughts to our hand. And
Yeah.
many times people will stop, they'll put the 5-minute timer on. And then when they go back to read what they wrote, they're like, oh, I didn't even realize I wrote that.
Yes,
And
exactly. For sure.
that's part of the beauty of journaling, or just writing down, we call it downloading, just downloading our thoughts for that 5 minutes or whatever on a certain subject.
Maybe that's what I should think of about. I'm going to go download my thoughts. I'm
Yes.
going to go journal.
Ooh, there you go. There you go.
It feels less stressful for some
Yeah.
reason.
There you go. And it's interesting because I remember I was having a conversation with another family member who was recommended to journal as an exercise for their state in life by a medical professional. And they were just kind of having a lot of resistance about it. Like, okay, I'm going to write, I ate breakfast. And when I shared with this person, that's not really the purpose of journaling. The purpose of journaling is to get the thoughts out, to see what we're really thinking. It's giving us that space of, I have all these things. It's almost like going into the closet and taking the time to pulling some of those things out of the closet. You don't have to take everything out, just taking some of these things out and like, oh, I didn't even realize I had those shoes back there in that closet. I think I'll wear
Hmm.
those sandals for the summer or whatever.
Hmm.
And that's what it does. It creates that space. But then the next part of it, which is what I love, is again, reviewing it, rereading it, and then choosing one of those thoughts, one of those sentences. Because remember, a thought is just a sentence in our mind, and just circling one of those sentences that has maybe like an emotional charge, positively or negatively. Like, whoa, I didn't even realize I wrote that. And that's the one that we get to examine and say, okay, now that we've seen that we're somehow thinking that thought because we've written it down, now we get to examine that particular thought. And there's a couple of questions that I like to start out with is, first of all, what's the tone of that thought? That can be so revealing,
Hmm.
because how we say things, it just makes a world of difference. I remember a pastor talking about in Genesis, after Adam and Eve ate the fruit and they went and hid. And Genesis says, and God came in the cool of the evening to look for them. And he said, where are you? And this priest said, that sentence, where are you? Depending on how you say it to yourself, can either be condemning, like, where are you? Or it could be like, where are you? Like, I'm looking for you. And it was the first time I noticed the tone of the sentence reveals so much about our interior life. So that's the first thing that we examine in that thought is, what's the tone of it? Is it condemning or is it loving? And
Absolutely.
and then the next part is, then I always like to ask, and what is the one word emotion that it evokes? And what I have discovered is that many of us are not familiar with the vocabulary of emotions. There's so many nuances of a particular emotion. Despair is a very heavy emotion, but discouragement is a little bit lighter, but it's within that despair because it's leading towards despair. So being able to just choose a one word emotion, like what is that one word that you would describe when you see the sentence, when you read the sentence, how do you feel? And that can help you when you write it. And sometimes you don't. And sometimes that might be the challenge at the beginning. It's like, I don't know what this emotion is. Okay, that's okay. Then just put whatever comes to you. And then the next question you can ask, because again, emotions are passions. And catechism says the passions are neither morally good or bad. It's what we do with them. They're given to us, they're fuel. Emotion is energy in motion. It's to move us towards the good and to help us run away from the evil. And so that's the next question we ask is, what is this emotion making me want to do or not do? When I
Mhm.
feel this emotion, what do I want to do or not do? What's the action I want to take or not take? And then we can ask, well, what's the fruit of that? Whether we take, like you said, I choose to do nothing. That's a
Mhm.
choice. This emotion, this sadness is making me sit still. Okay, so now what's the fruit of that? The fruit of it is I'm not participating in this conversation. I'm here in this room, but I'm not engaging. I'm just observing. And then we can
Mhm.
ask, is that what we want? Is that the fruit that we want? And that helps us make the better choices. And just doing that one little exercise is so profound to be able to acknowledge the fact that, oh, that's where I'm ending up.
Mhm. When you're starting out, it doesn't have to be that deep. Like, honestly, go with what first comes off the top of your head. Don't sit there and psychoanalyze, pick the feeling and go with it. And Catholic coaching is where you can get really deeper into it, but practicing this way to analyze what you're thinking, and it's going to help you, again, back to knowing yourself better, to have a closer relationship with God, to make good choices, and to come to resolution with choices maybe you wish you hadn't made.
Yeah, absolutely. Because really, Catholic Divas, our desire for this series of getting to know yourself and understanding that you're a gift is the fact that Mama Vicki and I have this profound understanding that each and every one of us is unique and unrepeatable. You were a thought in God's mind. God desired you to exist at this moment in this time because he has a specific mission for you that nobody else can do. And Mama Vicky has a mission that she can do that I can't do. And I have a mission that I can do that she can't do. But together we are collaborating and having a mission together. And that's the beauty of it as well. But that's one of the things that I want to exhort you and to remind you and encourage you is set the world on fire because of who you are. I mean, I'm kind of changing the words that St. Catherine said, but when you are on fire with your mission, then what happens is your choices do become easier because you're
Yeah.
clearer on this is what I'm called to do. This is not what I'm called to do. Going back to your example, I mean, one of the things I absolutely love about Mama Vicky is that she had a desire since, I mean, as long as I can remember, she was 7 when she said she wanted to be a nurse, 7 or, I mean, you always wanted to be a
Probably younger than
nurse.
that. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
remember not wanting to be a nurse.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was your desire. That was in your heart. And yet you were willing to put that desire on the back burner for a moment and be a stay-at-home mom, raise 8 kids. And then it was time to, okay, now it's time to ignite this fire and to pursue it. So you knew when you
Mhm.
went to school, you were not going to take a music appreciation course because that wasn't going to help you become the best nurse you were going to be, you know?
Right.
And so that was what I'm saying is like sometimes our mission is like so profound and God always uses everything. That's the other thing. Like he never wastes anything. And so the gift of, while some people say, wow, you didn't do what you wanted to do because of these kids, in reality, it's because of these kids that makes you this amazing labor and delivery nurse. Like you bring to the table, and you say it all the time, like when you show up, there are so many nurses that look up to you and even older nurses just because you have the experience, but you also have that drive and you know this was what God created me to do is to help mothers. And now
Mhm.
God's creating, now it's kind of like shifting a little bit. Like now you're helping mothers in this way through this
Mhm.
podcast. And so sometimes the mission is the same, but it looks a little different too. That's the other aspect of it is can we make the change? Can we make the shift? Like, oh, I still need to get to San Antonio, but there's construction on I-10. So now I have to go down this way. And isn't this a beautiful path?
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah.
All true.
Yeah.
And once you get the confidence in yourself, and you get some right choices under your belt, then they're easier to make. The path is a little easier to stay on. And then of course I mean, again, you're gonna surround yourself with like-minded people and your Catholic coach and your spiritual advisor, and they're gonna be able to keep you on the right track. As long as we're alive, we're gonna have choices.
Yes.
And so many people, it took a lot of events in my life for the sake of the length of the podcast, but there was a time I really didn't understand that we had choices. I just kind of let life happen and thought I reacted on my emotions a lot instead of taking a
Mhm.
deep breath and just thinking. Or a lot of my emotions, I felt I want justice, and that wasn't the situation at all. And it takes maturity. It takes maturity, but a lot of you divas, I think we're all close to the same maturity level, the age of where you have some life under your belt and you can look back and you have to grow. I mean, it's called young adulting because it's new, you're new at it. And we talked about before, we don't expect the baby to stand up and walk the first attempt. So you got to crawl and then walk and then run.
Right. Yeah,
We just want to be
absolutely.
here to help you ladies. We want to be a part of that journey because it's important to do it in a safe space and a
Mhm.
space where you feel love.
Mhm. And I have another dear Catholic coach who actually has been interviewed on this podcast as well, Beth Bubick. She has a program called Delay and Pray on spiritual fasting. And one of the terminologies she uses is the great experiment. And I just love that phrase that gives me the grace to like, it's just an experiment. I'm just trying something. It's not, I mean, sometimes our choices are life and death. And I think that's part of the severity of like being the mother is that realizing like, oh my goodness, that choice that my child is making could completely ruin their career and complete. I mean, a simple choice like drinking too much and getting behind a car, the consequence, sometimes, yes, 20 times you have gotten home safely. And it's that 21st time that it's not, or
Mm.
other things that are so devastating that we don't even acknowledge. And again, that's the other part of it is that sometimes it's not our choices, it's the choices of others. It's like my husband always talks to my kids, no matter really, I mean, even as older adults and they're all independent living by themselves, we remind them that getting home at midnight is kind of a wise choice because his phraseology is bad things happen after midnight. And he always tells my kids, I'm not really worried about you. I'm worried about the idiot next to you because I don't know where that
Mhm.
guy's been. And I thought, wow, that's really. And then one of his other favorite phrases is, if you don't want bad things to happen, don't go where bad things happen. You know, which is so
That's a good
true.
one.
And that's
That is a
really,
very,
isn't
that's a
that
very,
true?
maybe we should have started this podcast with that. That's great.
My husband, he's so wise. I love him. But that's actually going back to last week is that we talked about the community,
Yeah.
right? Like if you have a community that is making bad choices, and we have a young adult family member who said, all my friends were just like smoking marijuana. That's not what I wanted to do. I got to go make these new friends. Like, this is not the path I want to do. And sometimes that is the hardest part of like,
For
hey,
sure.
I love you all, but you all are making choices that I don't want to participate in. So how do I be the courageous one?
Absolutely. And that can be very hard when they're good friends or long-term friends or family. I
Yes,
mean,
exactly.
it doesn't, so sometimes making that choice isn't easy, but when you have the tools and your gut and your heart and the Holy Spirit is helping you, then you can make them. And you don't have to do it maliciously.
Yeah,
When you
no.
make a change, when you make a change, but a lot of us don't know that. A lot of us think, you gotta, if you're gonna end something, it has to be bad. And
Yes,
that's not true. Like endings are not, as it said, endings are new beginnings.
that's right.
So they're not always, and it's how you handle yourself. Another
Mm-hmm.
reason to know yourself. So if you get triggered in this whole thing, you can take a deep breath and walk away because it doesn't have to be. I mean, think of all the times. I mean, Jesus turned the other cheek. Like you didn't like what he was seeing. He said his piece, and the people still just did it. And he just had to. Sometimes the things we do are the example we give to other people is by attraction, not
Mm-hmm.
promotion. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just it takes time. It takes time, listeners, and it takes support. So you're worth it. You're worth the Catholic coaching. It's worth the money. It's worth,
The
it's
time
worth it. The
and the
time.
work.
Absolutely.
The
It
work is
is.
really, it's all about you. It's all about the inner work that you've got to do
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And also one other thing you had talked about, which I wanted to just remind our listeners, we did a podcast on manuals, and that's also
Mm-hmm.
part of the discernment process, right? Is like if you've been given a manual by the world, like for instance, we talked about last time, like
Hmm.
living together. That's just a manual of the world. Like, of course, you just live together before you get married because I got to test this. I got to test it, see if this guy's the right one. And yet there's so many ramifications by that choice and that action. I love your verbiage. You said like you can't just play house, right?
Yeah.
Because when that relationship does break up, then the house falls, right? There isn't the fruit of faithfulness and fruitfulness and total. Like that is the gift of a marriage, is that I'm giving you freely, I'm giving you totally, I'm giving you faithfully, and therefore we're going to have fruit from this relationship. It might be fruit of children, and it may just be fruit of the goodness, how we become better. Like that's been the fruit of my relationship with my husband, is that I'm a better woman because of him, and he's a better man because of me. That's the fruit, is really of a good relationship. Of
Absolutely.
does this person make me a better person, or is this person dragging me down? And
Hmm.
we've talked about that a lot, about like making the choice of who I'm hanging around with, making the choice of what am I listening to, making the choice of what am I reading, what am I consuming with my five senses, so that we can become the best version of ourselves.
Yes, absolutely.
And
When we talk about choices and marriage, I mean, we know that there are ladies out there that thought they were making the best decision. They did think they knew this person. When you go into a marriage, that person makes choices, but that just makes it so there's always, I mean, we live in a sinful world. So when you go into something, there is a chance that, I mean, well, in a marriage, you'll both sin, but I'm just saying if it does fall apart, it doesn't mean you've totally failed necessarily. And
mhm.
so I just wanted to throw that out there because sometimes even the best laid plans.
Oh, no, no. And you know what? You're absolutely right. Like I ran into a dear friend of mine I hadn't seen in years over the weekend, and she shared with me that they ended in divorce. And I mean, really just my compassion, there was no judgment at all. It was just pure compassion and just acknowledgement. Like it's two broken people coming together. And
Hmm.
depending on the depth of the brokenness, like we're all sinners. Like you said, we're all sinners. And that is also part of the struggle of like, okay, these are my choices and this is what I desire. But if you're not on the same wavelength, even going back to last week when I shared the choice of us for Steve going back on active duty, that was he had decided that. And while I thought that I was agreeing with him, and I said it out loud, oh, yeah, I'm supporting him. In reality, I hadn't done any of the work because I didn't know any how to do this. I didn't know what my interior thoughts were and my interior emotions were. And by the time he came home, I was so angry and so hateful to him. But it was because I didn't take that time. I didn't have the tool, first of all, but I didn't take the time to really assess, like, is this my choice as well?
Yes.
And that's the hard part as well, is like, okay, you want to make this choice and I want to make that choice. Well, even just this podcast, right? Like we do this
Yeah.
all the time. Like, hey, we're going to record on this day, and then something happens, and okay, whose choice trumps? And that's also part of living, is am I willing to take a back seat, my choices for your choices?
Hmm.
Because in the situation, and that's actually the thing that motherhood taught me. Like as much
For
as I
sure.
wanted to sleep,
Oh, for sure.
this baby needs to get up and eat. And I literally had to abdicate my choices towards this baby because the baby needed what it needed, right?
Hmm.
In reality, it taught me how my will doesn't need to be done all the time.
Hmm.
And that's a choice as well. It's like being able to lovingly say, but at the beginning, oh man, I remember like, especially I was in the army. Oh man, I would just I was
Oh.
so resentful that I was not getting enough sleep. And that was another
You know,
manual. Like,
I
who
actually think that's a first time mom thing. I really do in my experience. I always counsel my first time moms. This is going to be a lot. All those people that said they were going to help you, you call them up. Dad, that's your job. You say, yes, mom, come over and vacuum. Because, but personally, I just remember that feeling, that overwhelming feeling of like, I'm never going to sleep again. This is like a panic situation. And you will. ladies, you will sleep again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But
it is very overwhelming in the beginning, and it can be yes, I remember looking at my husband with like dagger eyes, like there he is just sleeping while I am up with this baby.
yes, exactly. Oh, if there's any new mamas listening to us, we have compassion for you. We
Yes,
know
we
where
do,
it
for
was.
sure. Oh my
And this
gosh.
too shall pass. This too shall pass. But yeah, that choices, like, what am I willing to do? And actually, that kind of led to, like, for me, that led to making the decision of getting out of the service because I
Sure.
saw in our life, both of us were working 12, 14 hours a day. And then we had this child. And then it was like, I'm more tired. No, I'm more tired. And it
Yeah,
was
for
this,
sure.
and I just knew one of us had to let go of the rope. And I was
Hmm.
willing to do it because I also knew that motherhood was the thing that I desired. And that second baby, I was, because I didn't care, like, if I didn't get enough sleep, because I also knew that I was going to be home and also the experience, right? Like, I'm not going to die if I only get 3 hours of sleep. I will
Yes.
be able to function.
Yes, yes. I was gonna say it's kid 2 or 3 when you accept the fact that you're not gonna be sleeping, or sleep pattern looks different. It's not like,
Yes.
I mean, it's just kind of crazy how one little person can radically change your life. But
Yes. But
that's
that's
kind
the
of the way it
beauty.
is, isn't it? Think of
Yeah.
it exactly. I mean, all throughout life, first babies are very profoundly do it, but there's other things that, one person can drastically change your life choices.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So,
so
so we've talked a lot about taking our thoughts. How do we take action? And how do we correct that action from our choices, right? And I just want to kind of wrap up a couple of things that we talked about is really just doing that thought download or journaling for 5 minutes or less on your thoughts about a particular issue, and then being able to take one sentence, evaluating the emotion, where is that leading to the action, and then being able to see the fruit. That's just a really good discernment process of like, is this where I want to go or is this not where I want to go?
mhm,
The examine, nightly examine, again, that takes about a 5 minute thing, seeing our blessings, seeing where wasn't the good choice and what can I do differently tomorrow. That's the hope. Like,
mhm.
I have a choice to change tomorrow. What is the one thing? And then again, just being gracious to ourselves and being compassionate to ourselves.
You wrapped it up pretty perfectly. So we'll continue our journey, ladies, and thanks for listening in. Please give us a review, a rating. We can't know what you want if you don't tell us. And come on over to our Facebook page and have a good week.
Yes, I really would like to add to that on the reviews and share, please, because
That
our
too.
desire is to get this podcast out to as many people, and those reviews help us. Even if you don't want to review the podcast, come over to the Facebook page and give us. We thrive on feedback, and also it just
Hmm.
gives us again that understanding of like, are we making the right choices in this podcast, or do we need to adjust? Right? Or are we hitting the
Exactly.
nail on the
Yep.
head? So, well, let us pray with St. Paul as he gives us the blessing from Thessalonians. Name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. May the God of peace make you perfect in holiness. May he preserve you whole and entire, spirit, soul, and body, irreproachable at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. Until next week, God bless you, Catholic Divas. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Hey, Catholic Divas, we hope that you really enjoyed this episode. We would love to hear your reviews on the 3 spiritual practices that we talked about on how to take and correct our actions. The first was downloading our thoughts with our journaling. The second was our nightly examine. And then, of course, the third, which we talked about last time as well, is confession. So why don't you write a review on if you've taken any of those spiritual practices and how you're doing with them? Again, progress, not perfection. Taking the next right step is sometimes just all it is. And come on over to the Facebook page and let's have a conversation in there as well. See you then.